Ranking every Survivor winner worst to best. The worst winner in Survivor has absolutely got to be Ben. The number one thing that comes to mind when thinking about how Ben won Survivor Season 35 has 100% got to be luck. I hope Ben took his million from heroes versus healers versus hustlers and went right to Vegas and kept gambling, because nearing the end portion of the game, absolutely everything was on Ben's side. To be fair to Ben, he played the first part of the game really well and made strong alliances. My problem here is the end game, as without idols and surprise fire-making twists, there is zero chance Ben makes it to the end, as he was in a terrible position with the majority and minority alliances. Next up on the list is Jenna Maraska. I may start to sound like a broken record, but the problem with Jenna and all of the other bottom tier winners on this list is that there's a common theme of large portions of their game are played very poorly. Sure, she has some strategic decisions under her belt, like getting out Dina and cutting Rob at the very end, but all of Jenna's antics throughout the season make her a very unsatisfying winner in my opinion. Next up is the king of Gabon, Bob Crowley. What you see is what you get with Bob, as he had very little agency throughout the majority of his season and was by no means considered a dominant strategic player. Bob makes it to the end of the game simply from the sugar factor. If Sugar wanted to eliminate Bob, then he would have been voted out on countless occasions, but Sugar really wanted to keep the old man around. This is tough to rank, as Bob isn't going out of his way to manipulate Sugar, he just has a decent social game. But imagine if Susie was the winner. Number 38, Fabio. Having Fabio just above Bob makes perfect sense, as their games are very similar. Fabio does a fantastic job playing at the surfer bro archetype, as he acts like he's on Survivor just for a good time. And while we can debate all day if he was acting dumb or not, the strategy plays off really well and gets him through the early parts of the game. And when we get to the point where Fabio could be in danger, he goes on a 3 challenge immunity run. Number 37 on our list is Natalie White. Survivor Samoa is one of, if not the worst edited season of all time, and ultimately makes Natalie's win very underwhelming and feeling undeserving. A major common theme of all these bottom tier winners is they play very passive games of Survivor compared to active games. In Natalie's case, she plays this off perfectly, as she knew Russell Hantz was going to bulldoze his way into the endgame. So I would argue she knew what she was doing to a degree, but at the same time the producers have a responsibility to put together a compelling narrative. Natalie received her first confessional in episode 4, a point in the game where Russell had already received 27 confessionals. Next up on the list is Chris Underwood. Some of you will be scratching your head about how I didn't put Chris in last place. Being crowned the winner of Survivor Edge of Extinction, Chris gets tons of hate from the community, being voted out 3rd in his season on day 8, only to return to the game on day 35 and winning the game. And to the haters, I say my list, my rules. A little bit of bias, as I love this season of Survivor, and what Chris is able to accomplish during the finale is mind-blowing. Next up we have Amber Birch, later Mariano. Ah yes, Survivor royalty. It's crazy to think about the chain of events after Amber wins Survivor All-Stars. Going on to have a televised wedding with Boston Rob, plays Amazing Race a couple times, and bounce back to Survivor many years later. When strictly talking about Amber's game here, the best word to describe it would be disappointing. I've rewatched this season so many times, and after every viewing I come to the same conclusion that Rob should have won this season. Returning player season will always have the problem with pre-game alliances, and Survivor was just way too popular in the early 2000s that the egos made the players way too bitter on the jury. Next on our list is Survivor Worlds Apart winner Mike Holloway. I compare the win of Mike Holloway a lot to the win of Ben Driebergen, as both of these guys played very well for most of the season and during the endgame were unable to be voted out. Again, my list, my rules. I really didn't like the surprise fire-making twist, and that's why I have Ben in last place. Mike, on the other hand, used challenge wins to keep himself safe for the majority of the game, instead of idling his way to the end like Ben. A lot of people tend to discredit winning challenges as a way to get yourself to the end of the game. I actually like this playstyle and don't mind it. The reason I have Mike in the bottom section is the near fatal error that was the final Survivor auction. What was once simply a fun Survivor segment turned into a Vantage Roulette with tons of family letter drama. Next up is the stealth bomber Danny Boatwright. Honestly, not much to talk about here. Danny knew she could fly under the radar, and that's exactly what she did, even admitting to keeping secrets during confessionals, as she didn't want anything she said manipulated in the game. Danny is not the worst winner on our list, but she is the most forgettable winner from the most forgettable season. Next up on our list is Ethan Zahn. Winner of the 3rd season of Survivor, Ethan won Africa strictly from how likable he was in the game. No, not his strategic maneuvering. All the strategic gameplay should be credited to Lex. Ethan is the ultimate nice guy, and like a lot of winners on the list, I give more points to strategic gameplay to social gameplay, as it's just so hard to appreciate the social game on TV. Africa obviously has the first tribe swap, but other than that, and it's a pretty simple season of Survivor, which is why I rank other social players higher than Ethan. Next is the newest Survivor winner, Erica. This is probably the hottest take I have on this list so far, but I really think wherever I was gonna place Erica was gonna cause some outrage. On one hand, she was the first female winner in over 6 seasons, and coming off the COVID hiatus of Survivor, people were looking forward to Survivor no matter the quality of the season. And as a bonus, she's the first Canadian winner. But on the other hand, she basically gets zero screen time for most of the game and doesn't evolve into the lion until the very end. This win just feels super weird to me, as we are constantly being told at different points in Survivor 41 that Erica is this amazing Survivor player, but we aren't really ever shown the amazing Survivor player she is. She's not the worst and 100% nowhere near the best. Next up is Survivor's 33rd season winner, Adam Klein. On a personal level, I found this one really tough to rank and could honestly be persuaded a few places higher or lower depending on the reason. I love that a superfan of the show that has applied for so many years actually won the game, and I bet a lot of us superfans can see ourselves in Adam. But man, oh man, does he make a lot of errors in Millennials versus Gen X, and that's why he's down this low on my rankings. Being on the wrong side of many votes, not playing his idol correctly, and knowing about the final 10 rock draw and still not playing his idol at that point. Number 29, Sophie Clark. Sophie Clark doesn't get enough credit from the Survivor community, myself included, for the game she plays in South Pacific. It's crazy to think Sophie's losing game in Winners at War boosted her popularity, but it's just gonna happen when her season was filled with screen hogs from the likes of Coach, Ozzy, Brandon, Hanson, Cochran. If the season gets edited differently, we could live in a world where Sophie is a top 15 winner, as she plays a very textbook game of Survivor. She finds a majority alliance, outplays the final 3 with a little bit of a challenge beast hidden in there. The only problem is she does it in a pretty boring way. Next up is Tina Wesson. I compare the winner of the Australian Outback a lot to the winner of South Pacific, as both Tina and Sophie played from a position of power during the post-merge. I think Tina deserves a little more credit, as I get the sense she played the game more strategically, whereas the game was laid out a little more for Sophie to win. Next up on our list is Aris Bakauskis. Whoa, look at that, another social heavy player that plays from the majority without needing to do much work along the way. If you need a quick reminder, Survivor Panama, the Lamina tribe went into the merge down in numbers to the chaotic Kasaya tribe, meaning they would get voted out one after another until the entire Lamina tribe was gone. Well, except for Terry. Aris would eventually lose the power he had to Sari, and I really judge his thought process for willing to take Sari to the end of the game, as there's just no way Aris beat Sari in the end. Number 26, Sandra Diaz-Twine. Specifically her winning game in Survivor Pearl Islands. For obvious reasons that we'll get to a little down the list, Sandra is one of the biggest names in Survivor history, and yet when you strictly look at her winning game this season, it's pretty lackluster. She invents the anyone but me strategy, makes her closest ally take the fall for wasting the fish, and other small maneuvers along the way. Like, I get it, she's Queen Sandra, queen stays queen, adios, but at the same time there isn't much here that separates her from other middle tier winners. Next up we have Denise Stapley, the only winner in Survivor history to go to every single tribal council of the season and win the game. Denise highlighted the definition of social adaptability in Survivor Philippines. Her game is the prime example of what you can accomplish when you manage your threat level properly and aren't the primary target. Next on the list is Tommy Sheehan. The most boring winner in modern Survivor, Tommy was the boring and forgettable winner of one of the worst seasons of all time. We don't need to get into the specifics here, but it's laughable how Tommy won Island of the Idols without ever going to see Rob and Sandra, without any advantages or idols, and without any immunity wins. Textbook Survivor game, but worst case scenario for the producers. Next on our list is Nick Wilson. Winner of Survivor David vs. Goliath, Nick Wilson went into the game as a huge Survivor superfan. What I like most about Nick's game is he purposely made side deals and side alliances with everyone he possibly could, and later would give them all nicknames for that personal touch, meaning if Nick was ever screwed over, he could jump ship and utilize other relationships he had built. The main issue with Nick's game is he would get visibly angry on multiple occasions if things don't go his way. If Nick could have managed his temper a little better, I would have easily moved him up on the list. Number 22, Wendell Holland. There is something about these modern Survivor winners that just screams average, middle of the road winner. I believe Wendell's Survivor Ghost Island win to be more impressive than Nick's win and more entertaining than Tommy's win, but I keep talking myself out of putting Wendell in my top 20. This is where my bias is going to be put on full display, as I put season 39, season 37, and season 36 in back-to-back spots, and that's just because in my opinion the Golden Age winners are more impressive. We saw this on full display during Winners at War when new school players players were starstruck at our Survivor legends. At the same time, Wendell's win here is really impressive, and that's why he's one of the best ranked out of all the new school winners. Next on our list is Tyson Apostle's winning game in Survivor Blood vs. Water. One of the most dominating wins in Survivor history, Tyson worked hard from start to finish to become the kingpin after taking Aris out and outplaying Hayden. Tyson's one of my favorite players of all time, so there's a little bit of a bias there, but what hurts Tyson's game compared to other dominant winners is the amount of pre-game alliances that were made this season. Top 20 baby with Sandra, Diaz, Twine, and Survivor Heroes vs. Villains. I find that a lot of people in the community tend to place Sandra's season 20 win at either the very bottom of the list or the very top of the list. Nah, not me, right down the middle fits perfectly in my opinion. Sandra gets knocked points for her main strategy all season being voting Russell out and never succeeding in doing it, but the fact alone that she won the game twice means she's doing something right. Next on our list is Vecepia Towery. Vecepia's win here and Chris Doherty's win a little later on the list are so similar as the fans were left confused when the season first aired, but the farther we have distanced ourselves from the seasons, the more we can appreciate them. Vecepia was able to backstab multiple people all season long and somehow at the same time as an under the radar winner. Next on our list is Michelle Fitzgerald. I would argue that Michelle is the ultimate social Survivor player, making it to the end of the game in both her seasons and beating up Ty and Aubrey in Survivor Co. Wrong. Michelle got tons of hate at the time for beating Aubrey at the final tribal council, and honestly, if Survivor's played 100 times, I think Michelle makes it to the end the most out of any player ever. What's holding Michelle back from being a true top tier winner is the amount of luck that went into many parts of her Co. Wrong game. For example, not going to tribal council for the entire pre-merge. Next up is Chris Doherty. Like I said previously, Chris' win in Survivor Vanuatu feels much like Vecepia's win in Marquesas. Not for how they played the game, but the fan reception so many years later. As with more passing time, more and more fans are giving Chris and Vecepia more credit for winning the title of Sole Survivor. Also, he has one of the best final tribal council performances of all time. Number 16, Natalie Anderson. If we're gonna make a tier list separating all the winners, it's around here when I separate the good winners from the great winners. Natalie Anderson simply checks all the boxes off that a Survivor player needs with her amazing physical, strategic, and social abilities. You know, outwit, outplay, outlast. Her entire San Juan del Sur performance is impressive from start to finish, as she sets out to avenge Jeremy, backstabbing her allies on multiple occasions, but still having them trust her all season long. The 15th best Survivor winner is Todd Herzog. The winner of Survivor China, Todd Herzog, had an amazing Survivor performance that often gets forgotten about as Todd has only played the game once and more people continue to win. He led the decision making of his alliance, was in the power seat for the entire game, and concludes with a stellar final tribal council performance. Next up is Earl Cole. The winner of Survivor Fiji, Earl is an amazing Survivor player and a fantastic winner. Although I give Fiji tons of heat for being the worst season of all time, it's unbelievable how dominant Earl was this season without ever watching a season of Survivor. Earl is able to sweep the jury at final tribal council, and if it wasn't for a single vote on day 14, he would have secured the first ever perfect game. But more on that later. Number 13, the Iceman Brian Heidick. Arguably the first true dominant Survivor winner during Survivor Thailand, Brian Heidick walked into Survivor not wanting the adventure that most old school players looked out for, but as a business trip to win $1 million. Having agency throughout the entire game, making multiple deals to secure his safety, and winning the last few immunities when it mattered most. The only knock to Brian's game is how he handled the social relationships outside of his alliance. Next on our list is Sarah Lacina. Sarah is another one of these players that the community is not in agreement on where her winning game ranks. Some people have her in the top 5, others nowhere near the top tier winners. People always talk about Survivor players needing the ability to play from the top and from the bottom, while Sarah Lacina does a perfect job of playing from the middle in Survivor Game Changers. And we can't forget the insane move of blindsiding fan favorite game changer Sierra Dawn Thomas Anglem. Number 11, Boston Rob. Going to keep this one short and sweet as every Survivor fan understands who Boston Rob is and how he was able to win Redemption Island. It was one of the most dominating games in Survivor history, but at the same time, it's his 4th time playing, and his tribe, let's just say they weren't the brightest. Next on our list is Tom Westman. Other than the first winner of all time, Tom is the final old school winner on our list, and that just shows how impressive Tom's win turned out to be in Survivor Palau. He was a physical threat in challenges, had the strategic mindset to play the game, and was able to manipulate people socially like very few know how to to do. Next up, just barely cracking the top 10 is Richard Hatch. We all knew the original winner of Survivor was going to be coming up sooner than later, as it's just impossible to tell how good Richard Hatch is at Survivor. He literally wrote the book on basic Survivor strategy, coming up with the alliance and many other core principles, but at the same time he faced zero competition. Out of respect for Survivor Borneo and the original winner, I think 9th place fits perfectly. Next on our list is Yul Kwon. Everyone loves a good underdog story, and the story of Yul winning Survivor Cook Islands is one of the best Survivor narratives ever told. For starters, you have his tribe down to only 4 members going into the merge, and somehow, some way, they're able to make it into the final 4, where Yul is just barely able to beat out Ozzy with the help of his jury management he did throughout the game. Oh, and he also had a super idol. Next on our list is Jeremy Collins. Jeremy had such a great performance in Survivor Cambodia that he invented the meat shield strategy to get to the end. Basically, you need to align yourself with threats and use them as shields to get yourself throughout the game. In my opinion, this is the strategy any future Survivor player should use and probably is the best strategy to win. Next on our list is John Cochran. This might be a fiery, hot take, placing Cochran's winning fans versus favorites game in my top 6, and I can understand the criticism to an extent, as this season had heavy pre-game alliances and the fans tribe weren't the smartest tack in the box. But come on, any returning player season is gonna have pre-game alliances, and Cochran was able to take home the first perfect game on our list and the second of only 2 perfect games in Survivor history. Next on our list is Tony Nachos. Top 5 baby, I'm referring to Tony's original winning game in Survivor Cagayan. We first thought Tony was a unicorn for what he was able to accomplish this season, and amazingly enough he was able to replicate it and improve on it, but more on that a little later. Tony flipped when he needed to flip, created top tier TV moments, used the super idol in a creative way, and somehow convinced Wu to take him to the end of the game. Next on our list is JT Thomas. A lot of people are probably shaking their head with why I put JT in our number 4 spot, but you need to remember we are talking about his winning game in Survivor Token Machines, not heroes versus villains or game changers. JT somehow makes a fool of himself during both of his returning seasons, and because of that, people tend to forget how impressive his win actually was. The first perfect game in Survivor history, JT literally had his competitors hoping JT would win the game. Coming in at 3rd place is Parvati Shallow. Parvati showed off one of the best winning games in Survivor history during Micronesia fans versus favorites, as she gathered the numbers to create the deadly Women's Alliance. This alliance is so iconic in Survivor lore that a mere mention of a women's alliance in New School Survivor will send chills down the back of the entire cast and everyone watching at home. Blindside after blindside, the entire game is impressive, and she even finds a hidden immunity idol off camera. Coming in at 2nd place is Kim Spradlin. What can I say? I'm a sucker for a dominating Survivor winning game, and that's exactly what Kim does from start to finish in one world. An amazing mixture of social and strategic ability with a hint of physical ability sprinkled on top. The best Survivor winner of all time is Tony Nachos. The greatest player of all time, what Tony was able to accomplish in Winners at War is pretty insane when you think about it.